Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Catalyst Energies. My name is Dee. Thank you for joining me. I'm so grateful that you're here for today's daily medicine transmission. It's July 1st, 2021. And Starseed, remember who you are, because it's going to be really, really important as we embark on a third quarter moon squaring the sun today. We have Mars in Leo in an opposition to Saturn in Aquarius, and we have this beautiful kite that is forming because Chiron and the moon in Aries are meeting, and they're all in the mix today. So there is... as per usual, I mean, it doesn't seem like it's the pressure or the heat is letting up at all, either physically or energetically or spiritually. And it's going to be essential that at the same time that we know what is coming and we can feel it in our bodies, we can feel it in the world around us, we know what to anticipate, that we also utilize that Mars energy in a very interesting way today. Being able to move within that in a very rhythmic, rocking type of way that allows us to have a quiet recollection of all of the experiences that we've had, and to distill it down into some nugget of wisdom that can allow us to maintain that stasis point while everything is crashing around us. So I want to welcome back to my subscribers, my viewing audience. Thank you so much for being here. If you're new to the channel, thanks for being here. It seems like the more honest and blunt I get, the more I lose subscribers, which is kind of interesting. Not on BitChute, though. I have the best ratio on BitChute, actually. So if you really value this information, you find it inspiring and helpful, you can really support this content and this work by sharing, subscribing, liking, and commenting on this video. It actually does make a difference to independent content creators like myself. So we're going to get right into the reading today. It's very interesting. It's happening play by play now, right? It's all happening in real time, and it's play by play, right? Just like a chess game, isn't it? Play by play. And so much of what's been happening has been either curated for us or something that we have known that is coming and seeing kind of through the facade of it all. But now we're at a point where it literally is play by play, and it is the starseeds and the light workers specifically that have access to the capacity to influence what's going on and to anchor the light as we go through this time. And so it's important that we remember who we are, like truly down to the spiritual level, our sacred divine nature. Because, not everybody signed the contract to move on, if that makes sense. And it's important that in the midst of remembering who we are, that we are showing compassion and unconditional love for those who have made different choices. And some of those choices have to do with remaining in stasis, just like the message that came through yesterday. And, there will be a post about this that expands on it a little bit, but the question for today really was, what is it going to take? And what is it going to take for us to make the transition, to finally move past this tipping point? And the answer was very clear. Remember who you are. Remember why you came here. Remember who you are. Remember that you are a sacred divine being incarnate into a physical form. Remember that you came to this planet at this time for a very specific reason, and that we are in fact the creators of our own reality. When we remember this, then everything shifts in an instant. And not everybody is going to be on board. And as we're going to see in the reading today, many people are at the precipice of their own disaster, and they will continue to make choices for themselves. And many people's contracts are not going to be able to be fulfilled here, come next month. So it's going to stay a very hot summer. at least in the northern hemisphere. It's going to stay very hot. The heat is going to stay on. And self-preservation is a strong drive, isn't it? And when you've reached a point where you can no longer maintain the facade, there's a lot of scrambling that's going on, that's for sure. So let's just get right into the reading for today so we can see. We do have, like I said, third quarter square of the moon and the sun today. It's going to be really important that we keep our sense of humor throughout this whole process today. And what is that third quarter moon squaring the sun, if not a crisis in our consciousness? What is it that we are consciously aware of? Where is our attention flowing? And what are we going to change? How are we going to grow as a result of this tension, these cross purposes of the moon, our emotional landscape and our adaptability, and the sun, the full expression of who we are, and the blossoming of our nature? It's going to be important that we really lean into this square today, along with an opposition between Mars in Leo and Saturn in Aquarius. Mars is in a fire sign, so it's certainly in familiar territory, but Saturn is in its co-rulership. Aquarius is the co-rulership of Saturn. Of course, it rules Capricorn, and that's the primary area of rulership, but Aquarius is also a powerful placement for Saturn as well, and we've been feeling that as Saturn is now in its retrograde in this opposition to Mars. So we know nothing can stop what's coming. We know and anticipate the shift in the pressure, the shift in the dynamics, and we can anticipate what's coming within us as well as outside of us. And in fact, it's very crystallized, it's very formulated, it's very distinct, right? And the opposition is forming the spine of this kite that we're going to see in the astrological chart today, and we'll expand a lot on that. But maintaining our sense of humor, using humor to decondition our mind and to stay in an objective frame of mind, right, is really important, because the moon now in Aries, you can feel it. You can definitely feel as of last night that things started to heat up, that the kettle was starting to boil, so to speak, starting to reach that boiling point. And the moon meeting Chiron today, and trine to Mars in Leo, it's very hot, and there's so much potential today to really heal and acknowledge that wounded inner child, while at the same time healing from that wounding, right? To transcend that victim savior narrative that is so connected to the Chiron archetype, right, of the wounded healer, right, consistently trying to heal other people's wounds as a way to bypass healing our own, when in fact it's really just letting go of that identity as a wounded individual that actually is the real healing that's going on. So let's take a look at this interesting reading today. We can see here that we have the Tower coming back as our anticipated effect. Talk about anticipation and change in the pressure. And the Tower is reversed. And so this is usually not a very good sign because it's just blind destruction, right? We have the eye kind of at the base here as opposed to at the top of this tower that's falling. However, this also can be seen as an inner destruction, an inner sudden breakout, and a coming to truth. We have the Eight of Cups at the center here, and I've had somebody say to me yesterday that they feel like they are going through a spiritual and energetic hangover, and I would say that is a very, very very clear and distinct metaphor and analogy for this Eight of Cups, right? We're just squeezed dry of our emotions, and we kind of have to the false illusions are losing all of their attraction, and you can really feel that as well. And it's really going to be a matter of what we've decided to do. What are our choices? Some people will maintain the illusion. Some people will lash out in blind destruction as a result, and many of us, Starseed Lightworker, are going to allow this to transform us on the inside, right? to finally, I would say, transcend that wounded inner child, to acknowledge it, to love that part of ourselves, but also to not identify fully with it. So we're going to start here with our causal factor. We have the Six of Wands, right? Jupiter in Leo, the victory. Now we see that it's in this position of horizontal nature. So for some people, there is going to be a victory. Other people, not so much. And see, it really depends on where you find yourself. But it's a pretty distinct view that it's not a full-on victory for everybody. But there is this energy of victory that is coming into the heart of the moment, right? Where we realize that all of the past troubles, all of the issues that we've dealt with, all of the battles that we've been facing have been necessary to grow and to develop. And we come to realize that in all of the elements and all of the suits, the Six is that harmonious moment where we realize we take all of the strife and we take all of the negative battles and all of the resistance that we have with the Five, right? The Five is the bottoming out where we can't get any lower than that. And we use that as a way to ascend, right? We use that as a way to grow and to evolve and to learn and to develop. And the Six is about how we see that opportunity, we invest our energy into it and allow ourselves to, reap the benefits of that moment, but it's not a victory for everyone, right? It's certainly not going to be experienced that way. So the fact that it's on its side like this does suggest that it's not going to be this way for everyone. And that's part of everybody's contract. It was pretty clear yesterday with my own guidance coming through that we all make our choices, right? Every single person, we live in a free will universe and we all make our choices. And that is between us and Creator, what we decide to do. And our job is to be true to ourselves, understand what choices we're making, take responsibility for them, and also realize that everybody else is doing exactly the same thing, and to love them unconditionally, and to realize that if people are in stasis, if they refuse to change, if they are resisting this process that is unfolding, that is between them and Creator Source too, and that's between them and their own karmic contracts. And our position is to commit to ourselves and to love each other unconditionally rather than falling into the divisiveness. Man, it's so obvious when it's obvious, right? When you finally wake up and you see how much like everything around us has been curating and conditioning us to stay in this constant battle. It's pretty obvious. And so right here, again, there's kind of this other relationship to this where some people are going to feel this victory, right? That we're going to have satisfaction. There's going to be an amount of triumph here. And other people, not so much. It's going to be a battle that feels like it's lost, or there's going to be diminished returns, or we keep engaging in strife. So just keep that in mind as we're moving into this present moment that this reading represents. Now, when we have the Eight of Cups, indolence is an interesting word. It kind of means being lazy. And depression, when this is reversed, is really strong, but at least it's upright. So there is a lot of potential here for growth and transformation. The Eight is the infinite, divine intervention, right? The Eight is the Gnostic number of Christ. It is that moment when we surrender to source and to God's plan, however you characterize this, we surrender to it because there's nowhere else to go, right? And so indolence does mean this kind of like slothfulness and laziness, and it's because we're emotionally just completely tapped. And I know many people are feeling this way, just completely squeezed, right? There's not a lot. There's storm clouds in the background, right? These cups on the top are absolutely empty. And the lotus flowers here, they're wilted, they're kind of squeezing out what's left, and there is a flow. That's something to keep in mind. There is a flow, and there is water here. It's just murky, and it's just we are tapped. many people are just sick of it and they're completely drained. And so Saturn in Pisces, right? Pisces is the ocean, but Saturn is that hard, that hard boundary of reality where we have to come to realize, what is a false delusion and what is reality. And Pisces is that realm of delusion and illusion. And Saturn is like, well, that's I'm going to show you, you're going to feel it. It's going to be inescapable that this is the hard boundary of reality, regardless of all of the potential possibilities you can submerge yourself in. So the delusion has lost all of the attraction, right? And there's a lot of things that we've all been delusional about on this journey together and in different ways. And regardless of how you interact with this personally, the delusion has in fact lost all of its attraction. That is for sure, right? And we're left with frustration. Lots of frustration. This is the essence of where Chiron is right now and has been for many weeks. The frustration that goes along with wanting to change things and wanting to change the status quo like immediately and having to contend with reality, right? We do recognize a cosmic order. We recognize a sacred and divine order and the consciousness that is supersedes all of this, supposed illusion of reality. But we have to still live in this situation, and we still have to, feel it out, experience it. And we are left with frustration because the delusion has lost all of the attraction here. And so there's a couple ways that this will go about. We can remain in dumb resignation, right? Because when we're being called to bring in structure, Saturn, and logic, for instance, when we don't want to do that, then we are and then that's where the indolence comes in, right? The laziness, the intellectual laziness, the emotional laziness, where we just want to, we're just content with letting this be and just hoping that we kind of just drown, right? That's also a possibility with this, that we are just not going to take responsibility for anything. We'll just let ourselves just seep right into the ocean of all of the experiences and the illusion, right? And the delusion. So we are tapped, and it feels, especially and then the moon coming into Aries, though, it's a real struggle to pull ourselves out of this, and it can turn into all kinds of negative emotions, people lashing out, and the frustration, of course. And then the moon meeting Chiron is not going to make this easy. But the delusion has lost all the attraction, right? We have to deal with where we actually are, and so the potential here is that it's time to abandon the past, whatever the past is, either our woundedness, our victimhood, trying to play the savior for everybody in an attempt to bypass our own healing. It's time to leave the current situation, whatever it is that is causing us to have this frustration. Open your eyes to the upcoming changes instead of just being lazy about it and just being like, oh, well, this is just how it is, and it just sucks to be human and whatever, right? There's a lot of potential here in this moment, even though we feel completely tapped. And again, there's going to be some victory for some people. Other people, it's not so much. And then you meet this moment here of just like resigning yourself, either resigning yourself to the delusion or waking up to it and being like, oh, I am going to surrender myself to the bigger plan here and what I came here to do, and then allow myself to be guided. Now, this is really reflected here in what is running in the background, right? What is operating in the subconscious level, and what is energetically rooting us and stabilizing us is this commitment emotionally to ourselves, really. And be conscious of our commitment. What did we come here to do, right? We came here to awaken. We came here as a starseed, a light worker, to anchor the light, to be part of this process that is the awakening of humanity on this planet. and to be true to ourselves. There is a commitment and a contract. You can literally see in this card, there's an actual written contract here. And this is part of our karmic contract. This is part of the contract that we made with our soul group coming in, whatever it is. There's so many ways that we can wrap our minds around this, but it does show that at the root here, there is a contract that we have signed, and we don't get out of it just by like ignoring it or resigning ourselves to our depression or our laziness. That's an easy way out, so we think, but it actually isn't at all. I mean, if you don't fulfill your contract here, you will do it in another realm, another dimension, another lifetime. There's no way out of this, okay? And so, but this does suggest that at the root here, there is a commitment and a contract on a spiritual level. The roses are the emotions, but it's also the spiritual level, the feelings that flow through us. We've made a commitment, and it's important that we honor that, despite the feelings of just being completely tapped right now emotionally and having this spiritual hangover, because it's very strong. It's very, very strong. And this is about the collective, right? This is a general reading. Not everybody is necessarily going to vibe with this. You may not feel even remotely tapped. You may feel invigorated. You may feel completely plugged into this commitment, and it is moving through you in a way that is strong and vital. And we're not feeling lazy. We're not feeling resigned to just give up, okay? But this is a collective reading, and this is showing, I feel like a lot of times now that I am reading, I'm reading more and more as for the collective in general, as opposed to specifically geared towards certain groups of people, so that we can all see what the collective is experiencing as a whole, and then we can adjust ourselves or our perspective to align with this, or just be aware of it. So, but there is a commitment, and so that's the thing, even though in a human way we are feeling really tapped and just drained emotionally and resigned to just be like whatever, the reality is that our soul has made a contract to be here, and it's important that we can gain a lot of power, personal power, if we plug into this, okay? And the thing that's interesting about this, though, the scribe being reversed as what we're consciously aware of, where our attention is, and that third quarter square, right? A crisis in our consciousness. Where is our conscious awareness? What are we paying attention to? Where is our attention actually going? And remember the full moon that we had, right? This is directly related to what was culminated there, and it was this, this self-justification that we kept like back and forth going through, that was really showing us what we need to still do in order to come together and get somewhere collectively, right? Is about what can we do, what is it that we can let go of and fully stabilize and root ourselves in the decision we made, so that we can actually work together and outfit that vessel to go somewhere new together, right? So we're still, this third quarter moon is still bringing us, it's now bringing us to this point of change and growth, as all squares do, especially the sun and moon, because we're dealing with here these very distinct parts of ourselves, our masculine and feminine polarity, how we feel and how we express ourselves, when those things meet, they're at cross purposes. The moon is really putting us in a position where we're trying to, pull it together, right? Where our ego is trying to pull it together and be a centralizing power, as opposed to the sun that is just like, hey, we need to not take things so seriously. And when you are stabilized and rooted in a sense of who you are, then you can use humor as a deconditioning tool. Okay, so this is getting kind of ahead of ourselves with the astrology, but the point I'm trying to make here is that we may be ignoring some things, some opportunities for higher learning or uplifting discovery as a result of feeling completely emotionally tapped, right? We were going to resign ourselves to just accept what is and be kind of lazy about it. And this directly is leading to us ignoring these opportunities. They're here for us. They are in front of us. And we may not be responding to very clear messages that we are here to share or to teach or to at least be a messenger in some way, and closing our minds to new ideas and thoughts. And so open your mind up. The scribe is the most educated person in a society because they are recording everything, all manner of information and research, everything that's part of a cultural and social context. The scribe is literally recording it. And so when you take in information without any judgment, when you take in information as a result of I'm going to take in information, then you become very educated. And something I want to bring up too, we'll get to this again in the astrology, is that Mercury, still in its post-retrograde shadow, is at the degree that the solar eclipse was in. The new moon, or the solar eclipse, right? The assimilation of all of the multifarious knowledge that comes in, right? We're not really assimilating it because, oh, look at that. We're still caught up in the divisiveness of this battle that is very intentional, right? Of course, there's a battle within each of us that we have to address. And that, when we start to make sense of that, then of course, what we see on the outside, what we experience on the outside will be reflected of what the process is on the inside. When we resign ourselves and to just give up, essentially, when we just give up emotionally because we don't like the hard wall of reality here, then we stop being curious. We stop taking in information, and we certainly aren't assimilating it very easily at this point. So this is, this with the square today and with this Mars in opposition to Saturn. I mean, there is, we're missing opportunities, I think, as a collective to really keep our minds open. And it's because we are serving other masters and really getting into the conflict, as we're going to see in these guidance cards. So where this eventually leads, though, here's our tower again, and this time it's reversed. So blind destruction, right? We are not actually like breaking out of old structures to realize or learn anything. It's just all burning down for absolutely no reason other than we don't know what else to do. There's a victory, or is there, and in relation or in the face of this like resignation and giving up, it's just kind of like, we'll just destroy it all, right? We'll just destroy it all, rather than actually opening our minds and really serving our own higher selves commitment. So that's, we look at this horizontal axis here, and we know that this is what's happening kind of outside of us, right? This causal relationship of cause and effect that is also mitigated by where we are at energetically as well, where this vertical axis is. And as much as we are committed to our contract, that's the problem, is that it's not a problem at all. Let me rephrase that. This is the challenge, because whether we like it or not, we've made the commitment, and here's our contractual obligation. And if we can't fulfill it in here and now, we're going to have to fulfill it somewhere else. And that's where people get stuck. They think that death is a way out, and it's not. It is absolutely not. We are here to grow and evolve as souls, as pieces of divine creator coming into incarnation in all manner of experiences. And we made a contract to be here. And in the face of this giving up, we shut ourselves off from new information, and we shut our minds down, and we're not open. And this really can lead to just blind destruction. And some people, this is exactly what's going to happen, right? And other people, this is going to be the impetus for us to actually make allow the change to happen within us. The thing about the eights in the tarot and numerology, right? This is the divine intervention. And so we have to surrender to a certain extent to this process. And when we become so emotionally just tapped, we do surrender, and we'll allow in this Mars energy, right? Mars is the agent of the tower energy. We'll allow it in order to make this change and shift and transformation within us. This is the way that we can look at this in a positive light that's not just completely destructive. Now, with our guidance point here, number one, so the fated meeting, when it's reversed like this, listen, there are people that are in denial about their karmic contracts, right? Whether we like it or not, we have a commitment that we made on a soul level to ourselves, to our higher selves. God, I will not miss that loud trucks going up my road. We made a contract to be here, regardless, at a higher level, in a karmic contract. Okay, now some people are not fulfilling this. They're in denial about it, having it reversed like this, and they're not seeing the truth of the situation. Now other people are seeing the truth of the situation, and don't let it's important that we don't let other people who are in denial about this commitment, who are resigning themselves to just give up emotionally. We can't allow them to drive us, right? And to be what we can, but I would recommend that we don't, right? Not everybody is going to see this, and that's between them and God, right? That's between them and their higher self and source, how they fulfill their contract, if they even acknowledge a contract, right? And we all do. We all come in these soul groups, and we make these decisions before we incarnate every single time, because we want to learn something, we want to play out a scenario, so our soul evolves, right? That is the blueprint of your astrological birth chart, is for your soul's evolution. So not everybody is going to see the truth of their karmic contract, okay? The reversal of this is very clear. And if that's the case, you have to let them go. You have to let those relationships and those people, if they are still in stasis, if they are still in denial, you have to let them go, because there will be other ways for you to fulfill these contracts in different ways. And on top of that, just unconditional love and forgiveness, right? It's not a judgment, right? And that's the hardest part about all of this, is the judgment and the anger and the resentment for people not standing in their own power, not realizing who they truly are, not remembering who they are. And it seems like that they are holding everything else up, right? That's what it seems like. And I assure you, that's not what's happening. Now, if people do not, you do not, whoever does not step into their karmic role, into their higher self, if they don't remember who they are and why they're here, they will fulfill that contract in a different way, because nothing can stop what is coming. And these are fixed points in time. These are fixed cycles that are tens and thousands of years old, if not longer. And we have a responsibility to show everybody compassion and forgiveness in these situations, and realize that everybody gets to make a choice. We live in a free will universe. And so if somebody is not fulfilling their contract in the way that you think that they should, well, maybe it would be better off if you take yourself out of their situation and focus some more on what you're doing in your karmic contract, so you don't get caught up in the drama of it, because that's really what keeps us distracted and just draws this process out for so much longer. There are individuals and groups who, for self-preservation reasons, are fighting tooth and nail to preserve themselves and not have to come to terms with their own delusions, right? And that's on them. And so if that person or those people or those groups of people are part of your life or have been part of your life, and you see that happening, it's important that you just let it go and show them love and compassion. Love and compassion, it needs to be the highest priority in this situation, even if it's frustrating. And there's a lot of frustration. Again, the moon meeting Chiron in Aries, that is all about that frustration. We want to immediately change the status quo. We feel the potential within us to do this, but we still have to deal with the fact that we're on Earth and in this three-dimensional construct and this matrix, right? This physical material matrix. We have to still live in that and realize that it's not going to happen right away outside of us. We have to heal those aspects within us. And this is such an incredible moment to do this right now. But it's also a moment that if people choose not to, it will find its resolution in some other realm. Okay. Now, when it comes to the scribe being reversed, right, that we have our minds being closed, because we are using our ego. This is the third quarter moon squaring the sun, right? We're using our ego in some ways to try to centralize everything, right? We want to rule our own inner realm. And so we're trying to pull it all together emotionally. And it's how we're adapting to reality. The square energy with the sun is using humor, right? Clowning, and realizing that not taking things so seriously or finding the humor in it is a way to decondition ourselves from other realities imposed upon us, right? And we want to be open to new realities. We want to be open-minded to let in new information. We want to not ignore opportunities for higher learning or uplifting discovery, right? And so the dog, your loyalty and faithfulness is misplaced by serving too many masters. Whom do you serve, right? That's the thing about the dog. It's very Cancerian. The dog is very Cancerian. Dogs are loyal. Dogs are faithful. The Cancerian archetype is about loyalty to your group and your family and your clan. Faithfulness to that which secures you and protects you and allows you to grow in a safe and healthy way is the stabilizing force in your life. And we are loyal to that and faithful to that. But we're serving too many masters, and it keeps us from being truly open-minded. And the master of even our ego, right? And that's not a negative thing. Our ego is just our inner child, but we can't let a wounded inner child be the one driving, right? Otherwise we're shutting ourselves off. So whom are you serving, right? It's important to ask yourself this question and to realize that the winged messenger of the Two of Roses is letting us know that through this conflict, there is the possibility of peace and resolution. And when it's reversed, I mean, we really have to consider stepping away when others are determined to have their way. And what is their way? Well, if their way is just resignation to the delusion and giving up, it doesn't matter it doesn't matter how much we love these people, how much we care about them, how much we are invested in their awakening. If they are determined to have their way and to stay in stasis, we have to walk on. We do have to walk on because it keeps us from really taking in new information. Our mind is closed to this upgrade in higher learning and uplifting discovery when we stay entrenched in this particular battle. So this is incredibly potent, and everybody's going to have to make their choice. And this is why it's important to remember who you are, because that's going to give you the ability to have a stasis in the midst of all of the crises that are really unfolding around us, right? So let's look at the charts for today, because I want to show you what we are looking at. Well, first of all, let's look at this kite. Oh my Lord. Here we go. So we see the kite, and the opposition of Mars and Saturn is the spine, okay? So we can't fly a kite without this spine, right? So there's something to be said with this opposition today of finding that we want the tension, right? We want the tension because the tension here represents an ability to anticipate and to predict in a certain way what is coming in a very crystallized form. Like there's no getting around it with Saturn, right? Saturn is the wall of reality, and the responsibility of that wall of reality that we have to be realistic about, right? And there's ambition with Saturn, right? There is formalism, there is responsibility, there are very clear boundaries, and it's retrograde, so we're really aware of it now, right? We can read the writing on the wall, right? We can get our instrument, our barometer, and be like, I can tell that there's a change in pressure here, so I know what the weather's going to do for the most part, right? There's no way to 100% predict any timeline. It's impossible, right? Chaos theory tells us this from a very, and chaos theory in a mathematical way is not simple, but it is in some ways, and it's very basic in that any change to the system, any small change, any variable that changes in the system can change the whole system. But even being aware of that is important. And so the timeline is not set, but the template is there for us to be able to engage with. And we're feeling it on internally, right? We're very much aware of it. We're recalibrating we're making sure our instruments are correct. That's the other thing too. Like maybe our instrumentation is off, and I do feel like a lot of people's instruments are not calibrated correctly, and they're still in this realm where if your barometer is broken or not calibrated correctly, then it's not going to work. And I think this time right now with Saturn in its retrograde is giving us this opportunity to really make sure and test it, right? If we are like, oh, the barometer shows that the air pressure is this, so it should lead to this, and then we see that it doesn't, maybe we should go back and reconsider what our instrumentation is, where it's at, if it is calibrated correctly or not. So, but this spine of this opposition here, we want the tension because we can't fly this kite without it. We want the spine we want the tension there because that is what provides the stability. Now, everything else around it is what allows for us to utilize this tension in a way that lets us fly. It lets us fly the kite, right? So it's a very interesting degree that we find Mars at today because, of course, Mars and Leo from a very, very basic kind of conceptualization is, we have this warrior energy. We have this really direct and ambitious and brave and courageous actualizing energy in terms of our creative passion, right? In terms of the heart pumping the blood through the system, right? And the heart, the essence that, the muscle that keeps everything going, right? And Mars in Leo is, in familiar fire territory here, and it's like solar fire, like shining as bright as possible and really being very ambitious. But this degree that we find that Mars is in Leo, that's in opposition to Saturn, is very, very fascinating to me because the solar fire, for all of the internal workings that create that energy, right? Nuclear fusion. That's how a star creates energy and heat, is the release of energy as a result of nuclear fusion. Even though there are things happening that allow for this release, this combustion. It's stable in its own form, right? And this degree, the Sabian symbol that we find Mars at today, is a retired ship captain rocking back and forth on their porch, right? And it's remembering all of the joys, all of the challenges, and going, back and forth, and back and forth, and distilling that wisdom down from all of these experiences. And there's a certain amount of detachment that comes from this, which I think is very interesting. and it's about a quieted mind, and which seems so counterintuitive to Mars and to this like really bombastic Leo energy of quiet mind, but it is actually this moment here where the combustion has reached a point of like singularity, like a stasis. And we're able to distill wisdom from many experiences, right? It's not like we're swinging wildly like we were the child on the swing. It's now we are the balanced, older, very stable essence, the old sea captain, right? The leader, somebody who has managed to take themselves on that journey, now looking back and recalling everything that has happened and gaining wisdom from that and being still in that moment. And so this is where we really can find our fulcrum or allow ourselves to be in the midst of the tension with Saturn about what is coming, because we ourselves can quiet our minds. We can quiet all of this really fiery combust energy and see everything that has happened, that's positive and negative, that all of the trials, all of the crises, all of the joys that we have participated in through our journey so far. We can just be like that old captain sitting on the porch, rocking back and forth and quieting our mind. This is really about remembering who we are, because we've done this. We've done this before, guys. This is Atlantis 2.0, right? We've done this before, and this time there's no flood. This time we actually get to ascend, but in the midst of all of that unfolding, there's so much chaos and drama and divisiveness and people just like gripping and grabbing and hanging on by by the skin of their teeth, trying desperately to hang on to what has been. And we, as this really, our masculine can come into this stasis point, and not stop moving. It's not a matter of becoming still. It's our mind that is still, and we can still allow ourselves the movement in this very rhythmic fashion that allows us to distill the wisdom from all of these experiences. This warrior energy has reached this peak of combustion, and now is able to kind of sit back and be like, oh yeah, I remember doing that. Oh yeah, I remember when that happened. Oh yeah. And be like, I am now all the wiser because of that. Wow. This is really, while everything else is falling apart around us, this is this moment here, the spine of this kite is really what is allowing us to fly, right? It really is. And so as you can see, all of these other aspects here are the structure of the kite. We have the moon and Chiron are coming together. They're going to trine Mars in Leo. So again, while we meet Chiron and this wounded inner child, this incredible frustration that is going to just surface right up and really trigger this woundedness, again, it's finding a lot of traction and support with where Mars is. Wow, this is such a beautiful healing moment here, one side of the kite. And of course, the nodal axis of the moon is involved, and so Antares and Aldebaran also. So we know we have a fire trine right here. That's always part of a kite, is a fire trine. And then it's the sextiles that allow us to reach this peak here, and really activate this energy of a trine. A grand trine requires nothing from us in order to be supportive. And the sting of Antares is very real with the South Node. And we have to, again, we can either be triggered by it, right? As this Chiron and the moon are going to be in a trine to the South Node, or we can allow Mars at this moment to be the grounding force, right, of this kite. And then also the sextile to Saturn, to Saturn, right? We see that there's a sextile from the south node. There's a sextile from the moon and Chiron, again, to Saturn, right? We can invest this energy of like, we see what's coming. We know what's coming. We can feel it in our own bodies, in the energy field around us, right? We know what's coming. And so we can invest that into the, letting go of the past, right? These collective paradigms that the South Node represents. We can invest this into this really palpable, very intense reminder and emotional connection to this woundedness. And then when we do that, then we have the kite, right? It's then complete, and then we can fly. And that's very much about letting the inner child just be, right? And to fly the kite. And, when you're flying a kite, you're not really doing much other than holding it at its base, right? You're holding it from a string at its base, and you're letting it go, and it's flying of its own volition. But it has to do with this without the spine being in this tension, there is no kite, right? Then you just have this fire trine right here. But this allows us to really, this tension of the spine is what keeps the shape of the kite and allows us to fly. This is so incredible today. And it's really important that we realize that not everybody's going to experience it this way. And when we remember who we are, why we came here, what we're here to fulfill as a contract, when we are able to connect to that, then we are able to fly. And, Andromedan star seeds are going to get activated as the moon later tomorrow comes into the later degrees of Aries. Okay. And so we also know that that's going to activate the Andromedan star seeds, they have the wings, right? They want to fly. They are pushing along social revolution because freedom and independence is essential. But you have to have this spine, this opposition and tension of the spine of the kite if you want to be able to fly. Just like you may have two wings here, right? You have this and these two wings as an Andromedan starseed, right? You have the two wings open and spread, but if there is no spine, if there's no center point to have them anchored to, there is no flying. So that's just something to kind of wrap your minds around as we are going through today and really addressing some very challenging dynamics between ourselves and other people. Now, there's a couple other transits I want to talk about today as well as we go through this process. So we talked about the kite, we talked about the third quarter moon squaring the sun, we talked about how Mercury is at the degree today of the eclipse, right? Of assimilating. So Mercury is really, if we've been doing our work with Mercury, and now that it's direct, we are kind of get reminded of, again, there's so much information, there's so much data, there's so much communication out there, there's just so much light that we have access to so much through where our technology is and the internet, for instance. The choice to know is ours now. Ignorance is certainly a choice. And the real challenge is to be able to assimilate all of this into something that makes sense, right? We want our digestive fire to be strong. And Mercury is capable of taking in all this information, and we want to be able to assimilate it properly. And so we're going to get this kind of reminder about this. And again, the scribe at the top of the reading today is also a big part of this. Again, that if we are shutting our minds down, right? If we're not allowing in new information, if we're not keeping an open mind, then we aren't assimilating anything. And then the flip side of that is that if we don't have the means to assimilate, we just waste all of this. And I feel like that's a lot of what's happening too, is that there's just an overload. So allowing Mercury now direct can really assist in this process that started with the eclipse, right? We know that this is going to be something that plays out over the coming months until at least the next eclipse cycle starts, which is November and December. So letting Mercury work for us to assimilate all of this information is there's so much happening right now. I can barely keep up with it the way that I'm transmitting it right now. Jupiter has moved back into the second degree of Pisces, okay? And remember, it's retrograde, right? This expansion within. This degree is about being cautious and hiding, because that is part of a full connection to everything, right? Is that we leave ourselves open. And I do feel like that there's only so far that certain individuals are going to be able to hide from the truth and hide from themselves, right? Now, also too, that we do want to keep ourselves. This came up when the moon was in Pisces, in that what was it? It was a connection. We just did this yesterday. There's just too much. It's just too much. It goes in and out. We want to be able to protect ourselves. We want to exercise caution. We do not want to just there's no boundaries with Pisces, right? And with Jupiter here, and Pisces being its co-rulership, there's also, it just keeps expanding the boundaries. But now that it's retrograde, it's expanding on those, expanding within us. And so we don't want to just totally, float away either. We don't want to necessarily be a balloon that just goes off, we want to have the string still attached to this kite. We don't want to just go off into the distance and because we're here for a reason. So I also feel like that Jupiter is an advocate of our social values, and is the defender of the collective paradigm, our religion, our belief system. It's the defender of the truth, right? What we all agree on as truth. And so again, it's expanding in some ways this area that is making it really hard for other people who have been trying to hide to continue hiding. That is certainly coming up really strong in certain circles that I'm not going to go into here, but I can really see how Jupiter is working for us right now in that way, potentially. But it also, we have to be careful not to just give ourselves away totally. We want to exercise a bit of caution in terms of, being so accessible to the entire collective unconscious as well. And this also goes for our access to information and propaganda and delusion. Again, that's the Pisces, the potential for being deluded in Pisces is very, very strong. Let's see what else is going on today. And we talk, And asteroid Ceres has moved into the next degree of Taurus, 21 degrees Taurus. And this is about discerning what is actually valuable to us from our culture, right? We, it's that saying of take what resonates and leave the rest. And we have to be very mindful. Oh, wow. There's all kinds of stuff going on out in the world. I have no idea what's going on. Ceres is asteroid Ceres, right? She is moved into the next degree, and she is, like I said, wow, I'm so sorry, guys. I have a feeling that people are just showing up at my house and without ever letting me know, and it's so frustrating. See, there's that, trying to hide and you can't. So she has moved into the next degree of Taurus, and it's about discerning what is in fact valuable to us and what we're going to let go of. And asteroid Ceres is the giver of the grain, right? She provides the sustenance for us. She is the goddess of the agriculture. And so when we are able to, it's really just about separating the wheat from the chaff, right? So that is an important thing to remember as well, that she is now supporting that process of separating what is valuable and what is not. And if we are able to do that as well, if we can be very real with ourselves about it, then we will be sustained and nourished and taken care of by what the earth provides to us, right? Our actual sustainment. So I think I'm going to leave it there because I have a feeling that people are trying to get my attention. And, I think that's a good place to leave it. There is so much happening today, and these transits are really, really huge. And there's been a very significant changeover point. So, um, guys, I love you. Oh my gosh, when you work from home, people don't respect you at all, or your time or your space. That's one thing that I have learned about this process. And especially when you do this work, people also don't out in the matrix world also don't respect that it's actually work. So I'm just going to have to accept what that is and move forward. So if you're interested in reading energetic support, you can find me at catalystenergies.net. That's in the description box below. Also Facebook, Telegram, linked in the description box below. I'm putting more posts up with my channeled transmissions that I get before I come live. And so that's a good way to stay connected. So I hope everybody's doing well. Please take very good care of yourselves. I love you. I'll see you tomorrow for the astrology report for the week. And have a great day. Take care. Bye.